Welcome to the Harley Street Doctor podcast. I'm Alya Shakir, CEO at Harley Street Health Centre. Today I am very happy to be joined by Imonirhua, CEO of KeySteps Wellbeing. Hello.
Hello, Alya. Good to see you.
So good to see you.
Yeah,
We've known
likewise.
each other for years.
Yes, we have indeed.
And you and Marsha and the
Absolutely.
KeySteps team. And for those at home who don't know about KeySteps
Yeah,
Wellbeing, you
sure.
guys are an addiction and mental wellbeing service,
Absolutely.
offering bespoke programs.
Absolutely.
And we can talk about that,
Sure.
in a future conversation a bit more.
Sure.
But you had a great idea of talking today about alcohol
Yes.
and when alcohol becomes more than fun,
Yes.
if we
Yes.
can put it that way.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Are there other ways that we can? I mean, I don't really want to say the word addiction because it's so strong,
Absolutely.
but I think alcohol is definitely one of those things that can become a habit if we describe it like that to begin
Absolutely.
with. So, I mean, I know you have a lot of experience in this area. I'm really curious, what would you say brings people to you? At what point do people usually give KeySteps a call?
So it's a really good question, Alya. I think there's several different times this will happen. 9 times out of 10, it's a family member. Family members concerned about their loved one, concerned the fact that they might be drinking a bit too much, noticing that nights out are getting a bit more boozy, notice that the fact that, they're drinking more in the week, like normally starting on a Wednesday, I suppose they used to start on a Friday. It's those triggering moments that family members will contact us and say, I'm a bit concerned about my loved one, they're drinking. Can you give me some advice, some suggestions, some guidance as to how best we can help and support? And it's generally during that time I would say, let me speak to the person, and normally 9 times out of 10 they are, my drink is okay, nothing wrong with it. Because it's such a subtle thing, if you're having a drink on a Friday night, and which is fine, and then Saturday night and Sunday you might get back to work, and then before you know it, Tuesday night you're having a few glasses of wine, Wednesday. So it's really subtle. So other people will observe it more
Than you.
than you.
That's really interesting because I read this article recently about patients underreporting their alcohol use to their doctor.
Yes.
And it was sort of framed like, oh, they're lying. But I don't think, I agree with you. I think what happens is your habits change over time and
Absolutely.
you just don't actually notice. For example, if you socially drink or go to business dinners and stuff like that, you probably aren't counting your drinks.
No.
People rarely count their drinks,
Absolutely.
especially if there's open wine and it gets poured and the waiter keeps coming round, all that kind of
Absolutely.
thing. And then, if people get in the habit of there's an open bottle of wine in the fridge during the week, you're going to pour yourself a glass with dinner
You got
or
it.
after dinner. And over time, your alcohol consumption is going to increase.
Yes.
But also the way it supports your sense of calm or whatever it is it's doing, additionally to being enjoyable,
Absolutely.
that starts to
Absolutely.
creep in, right?
Absolutely. And I think, with some kind of case studies that we've had with individuals who do underreport, I think when they do that, it's more the fact that when the question's asked, they're normally thinking about the weekend.
Yeah.
They forget, like you said, that Wednesday when we had a, like a team meeting, and we all went out for drinks after. They forget about that evening, or they forget about when they come back from work and they might pour themselves a few glasses of wine, but they'll remember going out for the weekend. They went out maybe dancing, or they went out for dinner. It's at those times they remember the amount they're drinking, and they forget. It's just human habit. They seem to forget those other subtle times when they may drink. So that's number one reason why people underreport. The other one is a shame aspect of it, Alya. It's a shame aspect. Sometimes people know that their drinking is a little bit too much, so they will underreport. They'll say, I have a few glasses of wine, at the weekends. My biggest question is, how big are those glasses of wine?
Yeah, I've seen some big glasses. I have seen some very big glasses.
Exactly. So
Oh, bless.
it's one of those things. They that's how they underreport.
Yeah.
There are a few glasses of wine outside, big, small, medium, large. How is it? So I guess the audit C is one of the best ways to gauge the amount how someone's drinking.
The what?
It's called the audit C. And the audit C, basically, it's a really smart questionnaire.
Okay.
And basically what it does, it asks how many drinks do you have on a single occasion based over a 28-day period.
Oh, wow.
So it asks maybe a question like, how many drinks, have you had in the last 28 days? Then it starts breaking it down, 7 days, 5 days. And it talks about the quantity, talks about the kind of alcohol you may drink as well. So, and then at the end of it, it's scored. And at the end of it, it gives like an evaluation. It will give like moderate, I remember now, moderate, highly moderate, hazardous. So it gives several kind of ratings basically. And through that audit, you can gauge where someone's at their drinking. And the way the question is designed in a way not to catch someone out, but really to really get them thinking about their alcohol. So it'll really go back. They can now go back to those times to think, okay, well, I drank that day. And they can then calculate up, and then at the school will give the evaluation and kind of give the clinician a good gauge of where they're at with their drinking at that particular time.
That's really interesting. So, you said 9 out of 10 times it's a family member making contact initially.
Yes.
It must be a really delicate operation to go from that to having the conversation with the person.
Yes.
Talk me through that.
So, normally when I say, let me speak to the person that's involved, the loved one, they all get on the phone, I'll say, look, I need to speak to you confidentially without anyone around. I think it's key that the family member's not around in that space. And then I'll ask them some questions generally about their alcohol. I say, look, this is not about stopping, because immediately when people flag up there's an issue, like, I'm really concerned about your drinking, you need to stop. This is what the family members are saying. So that thing's in the back of their mind. This person's going to tell me to stop. But my way of working is actually, you might not need to stop. It might just be that we need to reduce your drinking. And there's several ways that we can do that. There's so many options that we can do.
People can get all or nothing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll say, tell me about your drinking. So that gives them an invitation now to start really breaking down. And I'll use the audit C and say, as a tool, as a mechanism to gauge where they're at. And I think it's through that rapport, create some kind of openness with the client and trust, and they start exploring, and then they start thinking a bit more deeply about their alcohol, and then they got choices that they can make, whether they want to reduce or stay where they are. It's really entirely up to them at that particular point. And if they want to make some changes, then we talk about treatment options and ways they can do it. One of the biggest things I notice is in middle-aged women actually who drink alcohol, maybe a bottle of wine a day or half a bottle of wine a day. They are surprised at where the audit C scores them at sometimes hazardous drinking. They're really surprised. And again, it's not necessary to have to stop. It might just be let's reduce it slightly. And there's many ways that we can do it to help them, if that makes sense.
I think that's really interesting, because I think there's been some cultural normalization of that kind of daily wine.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You see it in films, we see it in series, but we also hear these things about wine mum and wine mums and this sort of thing, as if it's a ha-ha thing.
Yeah.
But let's just be real. Anyone who is needing that or wanting that daily is probably masking
100%.
some emotional difficulty, right?
100%.
So on that basis, I feel, we do need to, how do you get to that? So here's my question to you. So you've had the conversation about the drinking, right? What happens when you, for example, okay, I want to ask you about resistance as well.
Sure.
Because I know not every conversation is easy.
Oh, no, we have some really
so
tough
we'll talk
ones.
about that 100%.
Yeah.
But how do you get to what's underlying the drinking? Because drinking more than you should for your health is a symptom, right?
Absolutely.
It's not a disease in itself.
Absolutely.
It's a symptom.
Absolutely.
So yeah, really curious about
Yeah.
those conversations.
I hope I answer this the right way. I hope I have a bit of a bugbearer, and my bugbearer is this: that sometimes people, for example, say middle-aged women, for example, just people in general, who know they have a difficulty with their drinking, and they know there's some underlying things in the background, they will go to therapy.
They will?
Some of them I meet, I'm in therapy already. It's one of the classic things.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm in therapy already. I'm in therapy, maybe couples therapy, maybe marriage therapy, whatever. There is some form of therapy. Not all, some. Yeah. But when they're in therapy, they are talking about, I don't know, maybe some underlying anxiety or some depression or some family dynamics with the children or something, work-related issues, but they're not talking about the drinking.
No, and interestingly as well, Michael, I used to be a psychotherapist, I'm not anymore, but it won't surprise you how many people go to therapy and spend the first 2 years complaining about other people.
There you go.
I understand it because that's where you have located the problem.
Yes.
And sometimes it's absolutely true.
Yes.
But it's hard to get to the point of, okay, why is this making me feel this way?
Absolutely.
What is it about me that makes this person's behavior so difficult for me? And
absolutely.
That is the exploration that people take a long time to get to. But then I'm really interested in this, not telling your therapist that you drink every day.
Yeah.
Why are we performing wellness to our therapists?
Yes, absolutely.
What's that about?
I think it's all shame-based. It's all shame. They're ashamed of being vulnerable and open about how they really feel, about the relationship they have with alcohol, the impact it's had. Because, people drink, they know when they have a bit of a boozy night or things are a bit, they've blacked out, they can't remember what happened the night before, or they've done things that they've regretted, they might have, done many, many things that are, and they wake up the next day like, right, I need to forget about it. 9 times out of 10, they forget about it with alcohol. But when they go to therapy, it's something they hide from their therapist. And I found that a lot. And I always say to people, eventually when we start exploring where they're at, and we'll get to resistance in a minute, when we start exploring where they're at in their alcohol consumption and they realize that I need to make some changes, but I'm in therapy, I always say, look, you need to pause that because that possibly is facilitating your drinking more. Because as you know, as a psychotherapist, we're not talking about, the clouds and the sunshine. We're really getting into a deep emotional connection and finding out what's happening underneath. And when people are talking about those deeper emotions, as you know, they hang around. And if it's uncomfortable and difficult and people will use something as a crutch to numb emotions, what are they going to use? They're going to just drink more. So I always say to clients when they're in therapy, pause, stop the therapy for a moment. We need to do some addiction, alcohol, relapse prevention, moderate drinking, some CBT addiction work around that, which is non-feeling based, a lot of psychoeducation to help the person understand the relationship with alcohol. Until it gets in a suitable place for them, I always say, let's pause that and then you can go back to the therapy afterwards, but give it some time. That's normally my suggestion.
I like that. That's a really integrative framework.
Absolutely.
That doesn't say, therapy isn't useful, but it's saying therapy is useful, but also we actually need to look at this specifically.
Absolutely.
As a coping mechanism that you have.
Absolutely.
Do you call it a coping mechanism?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt.
I don't want to use the wrong term.
No, it is. Absolutely. You're spot on. It's a coping mechanism, a way people use to cope through life. Alcohol, people use to cope through many different things. And you mentioned resistance as well. Many clients we have, they resist.
Of course.
They don't want to, they're not interested, or they come because, I'm just going to come because my family member wants me to come, So we do some work as much as we can. Then normally what they do, they say enough's enough and I'm okay. But what I find sometimes they come back when they're
ready.
You got it. When they're in that place.
That's the difference.
When they're in that place, they say, they think, you know what, maybe I need to, they call me and say, Michael, look, on reflection, my drinking's really skyrocketed.
You know what's unfortunate about human beings, all of us, is sometimes the people who love us see things well before we are able to see them.
Yes.
And that's really difficult.
Yes.
So we're talking about CBT, we've talked about
Yes.
the Audit C,
Yes.
right? That's what it's called. And other methods that you use. If you guys do residential, right?
Yes.
Is that for alcohol or is that for other kinds of addiction?
So we do, I like to describe it as inpatient in a non-clinical setting.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we do, we have various luxury apartments around London. Outside of London, there's a particular location we use as well, which is in the countryside. It's really nice. And basically we call it like a wraparound team. So we have a full clinical team of clinical nurses, general practitioner, consultant psychiatrist. We call them a wellbeing practitioner. It could be a therapist. And they're all based in this property, and it's one client at a time. And the client will come in, will perform and provide a detoxification of any substance within reason, as long as it's not too risky, and it can be done in the setting what we're providing. And we provide 24-hour care. So the client's going to get in that same 24-hour care that they'll get in any residential treatment setting. But I like to describe it as, when you're in a classroom, the smaller the classroom, the more support you're going to get.
No, absolutely. It sounds like a really unique service. I mean, I can really see how that could benefit so many people, especially, I know it's difficult, it's horrible to say this, but I always imagine that if you go into a rehabilitation facility, you're surrounded with your problems, but everyone else's.
This is the thing that
Do you
we
know
talk
what I
about.
mean?
100%, 100%.
I know there's group therapy and all this sort of thing, but sometimes people don't have capacity to be around everyone else's dysfunction as well.
100%. That's one of the main things we find, that people want that one-on-one support. They don't. And a lot of the clients that we work with, they are from certain backgrounds, certain places, and they don't want other individuals to know about what they're doing in case people start gossiping and talking about seeing this person in a rehab, seeing that person in a rehab. And they want that level of confidentiality. Some people we work with want to be able to work as well. And some inpatient clinics do not allow that. They say you've got to focus solely on your treatment, which I get. But, we have individuals that run high-end businesses. They can't just put their job down, and they have to be able. So we allow space and time for them to do their work.
Continue with normal life to a degree.
You got it. But at the same time, we focus on treatment.
Yeah. So at the beginning where you were saying that 9 out of 10 times it's a family member.
Yes.
What are the kind of signs and symptoms to look out for that your partner or your kid or your parent or whatever is maybe struggling a little bit from an alcohol point of view? What are the signs?
Beautiful question. Great question. I always say look at the times of drinking.
Okay.
If someone normally drinks in the evening, or maybe when they go out at night or when they go for dinner, but if you notice to start drinking in the afternoons, if you notice that as soon as they come home from work, they're opening a bottle of wine. If you notice that they're buying more wine, if they were on maybe half a bottle and now they're creeping to a bottle or 2 bottles, these are the telltale signs. These are like the early warning signs before the advance of any physical withdrawals or things like that. But there's like drinking habits, times, if they want to stay out a bit more longer, But the classic ones are the times of when they drink. If they're drinking more earlier in the day, or I could do with a drink now, I feel these comments each time start coming. These are the early warning signs, I feel, for people to look out for in their loved ones or friends even.
Are there mood changes and things like that to look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. People become quite irritable when they haven't got no alcohol, or if they have been drinking. The other one is sweats. If people have, I like to call it physical dependency to some extent, that they sweat and the bed becomes really drenched if they've had a night of drinking, or they become very depressed. Depression is a big one. People feel really low mood.
After drinking?
After drinking, yeah, thank you. After drinking, they can't, they call it the Mondays are really difficult to go to work.
So if you find that someone's mood is fine when they are drinking, but not when they're not.
You got it.
That should send you.
That should send a little. If they're constantly depressed, they're constantly low, and if there's no history of previous depression, I'm not saying other things can't be causing it, but I think
absolutely.
But I think one of the main telltale signs is times of when people drink.
Yeah. Because
it starts changing very rapidly.
Yeah.
If someone drinks when they get home from work, as soon as they got through the door, I mean, these are like, you're not even preparing the meal, or they're preparing the meal and these are real telltale signs to say that this could
They're not
be,
coping very well.
Something, yeah.
Right, that's really interesting. So let's say I am worried. I've seen some of these signs and I'm worried about a family member or someone I know. How do I approach this?
Yeah, I would have an open conversation and say, look, I've noticed that a few months ago you were drinking half a bottle. Now I've noticed you're drinking a whole bottle of wine. Or I've noticed that as soon as you come through the door from work, you're opening wine and you're cooking at the same time and you're drinking, and I noticed that your mood's changing. You know, or I noticed that your mood's really low, and and I notice it always happens after a drinking session, or the times you're drinking now have changed. You used to drink at 5 o'clock in the evening, now it's like 3 o'clock, or the smelling of alcohol during the daytime. These are some, and it's like I have an open conversation and say, I'm really concerned about it, and allow the person to, because what you might find is they might say, look, yeah, I'm really struggling.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really struggling, and I didn't know how to reach out for help, and the door's open, and if they shut down, they say, no, everything's fine. Allow them that space, because in my experience, it all comes out to light. It all, unfortunately, it does, yeah. Unless they get help. Yeah.
That is a great final message. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alya. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.